Hey guys, we're out in the shop and I'm getting a couple of my guns ready for a varmint hunt here in the next couple days. I've got this LCS Air Arms SK-19. This is in 25 caliber, and I just wanted to make a short little video to kind of show you guys how to remove and clean the barrel, as well as a few other little tips that I found that might be helpful to you. The first thing we want to do to remove the barrel is first to make sure that both safeties are on and that the gun is fully unloaded. So I wanted to show you guys how you can unload the magazine of this gun. Now obviously if there's something stuck in the chamber, you may not be able to do much with the rifle, but if there was some kind of problem and you needed to empty this magazine, you actually can do so. I've loaded a few pellets in here just for demonstration purposes. You just pull up the bar on the other side so this will turn, and you can use anything flat like a tiny little screwdriver. In this case I'm just using an X-Acto blade, and you can actually reach through here. You can poke those pellets out. So these will actually come out. And it's not too difficult to poke them out. And, you know, if you had a full magazine, you just turn this and you just keep removing them one by one until this is empty. And whenever I do any kind of work to this gun, I always double check. I'll open this up and I'll turn the entire magazine and look in there just to make sure that there's nothing that I may have forgotten about. And I'll fire the gun just as an extra precaution, you know, into a pellet trap. To remove the barrel, we can just pull the shroud off, and the end of this moderator we'll just unthread. Very easy to remove. You can do it with your hand. You don't need tools. And this should just slide right off the end of the barrel here. This whole unit's going to come off. There's two pieces here. You can see this slides in there, and then this is where this would thread onto the end here. So this shroud just goes over the entire barrel. So we'll remove that. And then there's a spacer here that's for the shroud. Pull that off, set it aside. So this will be the second time that I've removed the barrel from the LCS. The first time that I had done this, I actually scribed the barrel, and then I scribed this little notch right here, so I can always make sure that when I put the barrel back in, it's in the exact same position as when it came from the factory. They set this perfect from the factory. They actually have a tool that only allows them to tighten it to a specific point, and I'll get into why that's so important. When this barrel is put in, it just slides all along here inside, and then it'll get threaded into about this point. Now if you were to thread that barrel in too far, what will happen is it will actually hit this magazine, causing it to not turn, and you can have some alignment issues with the pellets. Now if it's too far the other direction, you're going to have a gap between the barrel and this magazine. So in other words, that barrel pretty much rides almost right on the magazine, but not touching, because obviously this needs to turn, and so it cannot have any pressure against this magazine. So it has to be in a really specific location in order to keep the accuracy and performance of the gun. Once we have the shroud removed, we can just use this Allen key and just gently loosen up this and gently loosen up this one in the front here. And all this does is it's just like a clamp. It just tightens the barrel down, so it's going to keep it from turning. So these don't have to be super tight. You don't have to wrench on them, just snug. And once that's done, we'll just screw the barrel off. And you can do it with your hand. You don't need a tool. It should not be tight at all. We'll just remove this barrel. Pretty easy to do. It's got some pretty large threads, so it unscrews pretty quickly. Now that the barrel is out, we're easily able to clean it, and I always like to clean it from the breech end of the gun rather than the muzzle. That way I'm not going to damage the crown. And one thing to note about these barrels is they are heavy. They're not floppy, you know, little dinky barrels. You could not bend this with your hand if you tried. It'd be very difficult to bend this barrel, just to give you an idea of its strength. And I can actually see where I'd scribed with my scribing tool. Just a very small little mark, doesn't have to be heavy. You don't have to really scratch into the barrel, just enough for you to be able to see. And so now I'm able to clean this barrel, and we'll get back into how to reinstall it. So after the barrel is clean, simply just slide this back in, nice and slow. Till it stops, and then just start threading it in. And it's going to take probably about 6 or 7 turns to get this in. And we're going to want to keep an eye on where we scribed here. So now, I don't know if you can see through the camera, I'm picking it up. I'm looking for that little scribe mark that I made on the barrel, and I'm trying to align it with this little mark right here. So it'll be set perfect. And then I'll show you guys how to test and make sure that it's functioning correctly. Now we can just tighten these up. These just have to be pretty snug. You don't have to wrench on them. It doesn't have to be like super tight. Like I said, it's just a clamp that's going to keep this barrel from turning either direction. Put the spacer back on. And then just put the shroud, and then tighten down the moderator. And it's good to go. Now I'm going to test this magazine, make sure that it's turning, make sure that I have that barrel in correctly, and you'll be able to feel the magazine turn. You don't have to hold this very tight, just rest your finger on it and you'll be able to feel it turning. And it's definitely turning in the clockwise direction, so we know that the magazine is functioning. So when I get out in the field, I'm always going to make sure that the gun is still zeroed. It should be really close because I got the barrel exactly where it was prior, and so I shouldn't have any issues there, but it's always a good thing just to make sure that the zero is spot on. The LCS does have an externally adjustable regulator, and they've advised me against doing any adjustment to this. Usually going up with the regulator, you know, you might gain a few feet per second, but believe me, it's not going to be worth it to what you're going to lose in efficiency. So I always keep my regulator set right from the factory. I think it's set right around 160 bar. And all I do is adjust my rear power adjuster here, depending on what kind of ammo I'm using. And you can easily adjust it, you know, over 1,000 feet per second with the 25 grains. I like keeping my pellets going right around 930. I found is the best accuracy, and so I'll sit out there with my chronograph and really kind of fine-tune the gun that way. And two, you have some clicks here, so it's really easy to keep track of that on a notepad. So let's say you go with something heavier, you could crank the power up a little, and you'll always kind of know where your numbers are going to be. And so it's a really nice, easy way of adjusting the gun, so you don't need to mess with the regulator. There's no reason for it. Hopefully this video will help a couple of you guys that own this rifle and I look forward to seeing you guys out in the field. We'll talk to you then.